we got another trade scenario. And before we begin talking about this trade scenario, first, like to say, rumor. This is a trade rumor. It hasn't actually went down, but this is being discussed, particularly on social media, more so than I really don't think organizations are even discussing this trade. This trade is nowhere near on the table. It may be on the cutting room floor, but I just don't see this trade happening. All right. And it's a swap. James Harden going to the 76ers and Ben Simmons going to the Houston Rockets. Now let's talk about the two players in general. This will both. I don't see either of these players causing and making an issue about this trade. James Harden is a Daryl Morey guy. James Harden will probably want to go to the Philadelphia 76ers because he's hired as player of operations there. Ben Simmons would love to probably go to the Houston area because, he's a young kid. He's more of a West Coast guy. And, even though he'll play for the Rockets, it'll be up to the Rockets as far as re-signing him. But when his contract is up, you're going to be hearing a lot of reports about Ben Simmons possibly going to the Lakers, all right, or to the Clippers, okay? But that's a couple of seasons down the road. So I think Ben Simmons would love this opportunity, and this opportunity could possibly be a pit stop for Ben Simmons, depending on what the Houston Rockets organization builds around Ben Simmons, okay? As far as James Harden goes, he would love to go to the Philadelphia 76ers because of Daryl Morey, all right? He has a great relationship with him. Now, the reason why I don't think this trade is going to happen is not because the players are unwilling to do this and they're not going to co-sign to this trade. I just don't see how these pieces are going to fit for the Houston Rockets and the Philadelphia 76ers. Obviously, the Philadelphia 76ers would love to have James Harden for his scoring. So, yeah, that will benefit them there. But I just don't see his talent matching up with what the Philadelphia Sixers have on their roster, okay? And plus, that's even more balls Joel Embiid is not going to be able to get, all right? If he was, which he doesn't cry about this, but if he had an issue with him and Ben Simmons splitting touching time with the ball, he's going to have a real big major concern with James Harden. It's just going to be James Harden or bust, all right? Plus, I just don't see his talent matching with what they have on the roster. When you look at Ben Simmons, and like I told you guys a couple of weeks ago, I feel like the Rockets are going to rebuild this season. They're going to go into a rebuilding phase, and they're not going to be buyers. They're going to be sellers, all right? And for Houston, they would love to trade James Harden for some draft picks, because they're rebuilding. And Ben Simmons has already been there and done that with the Philadelphia 76ers. So why would he want to start all over again with Houston? So that's going to be more of a pit stop move. Well, I'll be here for a couple of seasons, but when I become a free agent, I'm moving deeper out west, possibly with the Lakers or the Clippers or whoever. All right. And I just don't see the organization doing that because they don't have any promises as far as Ben Simmons staying with them. This can be a rent stop, a pit stop, and if the Rockets are simply trying to rebuild. They're trying to capitalize on picks. This is not going to help you get more picks, all right? When it comes to James Harden, on the other hand, I just don't see on a skill set how James Harden's going to fit with that 76ers roster. Obviously, they're going to slow the tempo of the game is going to be slow. It's going to be a half-court game. That's not James Harden's forte. He likes to move it up and down the court. All right? So that's not even going to be his forte. All right? You got Doc Rivers over there. And Doc Rivers is not going to go back and make the same mistake twice like he did with the Clippers, trying to make everybody happy. Okay? Everybody's going to be all together on this or not. All right? And I just don't see James Harden being all in on this. His style don't necessarily fit with what the Philadelphia 76ers are ultimately going to be. They're going to be a half-court team. They're going to emphasize more on defense, all right? They're going to slow the tempo down, and those are recipes that can be disastrous for James Harden. James Harden likes an up-court game, a fast-tempo game, a full-court game, and I just don't see it. I just don't see how these pieces are going to fit. But I could be totally wrong. But me personally, like I said a couple of weeks ago and last month as well, I feel like the Rockets are going to rebuild this season. I think they're going to trade James Harden to another team that's going to offer them cap relief and picks. They're going to and then later on, they're going to trade Russell Westbrook for a contender for some picks, and they're going to just start it all over again. All right. And like I always said about the Rockets are good enough as if you keep them as packed, they're going to win ball games in the regular season. They're going to be very successful in the regular season. But when it comes to the postseason, when everything slows down and when it becomes a half-court game, a possession game, that's where they're going to struggle. They're going to struggle the most. All right. If they stand packed with what they have on their roster. So so me on the outside looking in, I'm looking at it as the Rockets possibly are going to be sellers more than buyers, right? And I think they're going to start trading that roster. They're going to have a fire sale with that roster. So just remember who told you that first, all right? But it's your boy. I'm up out of here. Deuces.